Our company has generated over $200 million in revenue across over 150 service-based businesses. We've been installing sales systems for the last 6 years, and in this video, I'm going to show you the exact AI operation that we run on the back end to scale businesses past $1 million per month. And I'm also gonna show you 5 real-time examples of how we use AI in our own portfolio of companies to automate things like call grading, to automate rep hygiene and pipeline maintenance, to automate the entire sales operation back end within your own business. So, the first thing that we've done with AI inside of our business is use it to grade every single sales call that happens, okay? Our operation, we get between 8 and 12,000 sales calls every single month. That's real leads that our sales team is speaking to on a Zoom call every month. Prior to AI, our managers were basically just selecting calls at random. Either the team was sending calls forward or the manager was just selecting calls at random to review and then give the feedback to the sales rep from there. So what happens is a lot of appointments are missed. A lot of real sales calls are just completely missed and the feedback is never gotten to the sales rep. Now, all of our calls get graded, okay? They get a grading out of 10. The average, as you can imagine, should be between like 6 and 7. You don't want to grade too high, otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose. And the grading is based off of our entire sales playbook and based off of over 300 actual sales calls that follow the process. Okay, so the grading is really dialed into what our actual process is. That's really important because if you build a grading system, but it doesn't actually reflect the real process that you train your team on, then you're gonna get mediocre results. Okay, so every single one of our sales calls run through Gemini. On the back end, we've got a database set up in BigQuery that gets all of the sales call recordings. It runs through Gemini and then it runs it through the grading process. Again, that's been built on our playbook and built on our sales calls. It then gives it a grade. We've got a front end that it's called SalesView that we use that basically shows the front end of the sales call and shows what its grade was. Now, as a manager, I can go through and filter for calls that are graded less than 5. And then I can go and listen to the ones that have really low grades. And now this way I can prioritize, have some red flags in them to where I can give good feedback to my team. Or if I'm on a team meeting and I want to listen to a 1 call, a successful call to hype everybody up, I can go and easily filter for a call that was graded 10, right? And I get a really dialed in call that follows the process exactly. So it's a huge time saver for the managers and they can actually filter out what's important. And then what we've also done is we've broken up the sales calls into parts, right? So our sales calls have 5 parts: the intro, the discovery phase, the transition, the product pitch, and the objection handling. Those are the 5 parts of our sales call. And now every single part gets graded. So I see, and I'll show you guys a screenshot right over here of what this looks like, but I see the call grading and then I see the grading per part. And now as a manager, again, if I've got a call that's graded 6 out of 10 that I want to listen to, I can see which parts are the lowest graded. So if everything is graded 8+ out of 10, but I see the discovery phase is 2 out of 10, now I know I'll only listen to that part of the call with the sales rep so I can give them the feedback on that part of the call. Okay, so obviously this is a much larger build out on the back end, but if you start to build this and you start to build automation that grades every single call, your sales team, your management team will save a lot of time being able to find the right portions of the call to listen to and then the right calls to listen to. The other advantage is that if you've got a salesperson who is consistently grading very low, but their close rate is very high, meaning they're out closing their other salespeople on their account or their product, then you can start to realize that maybe the process that you've built the grading on is flawed, right? Maybe the script that you've been giving your sales reps is not the best script to close the most amount of deals. So now you can start to identify and analyze the calls from the gentleman who's closing at a higher rate and start to build that into the process, right? So he might be grading really low, but he's bringing in all these deals. Now you can start to use it as a red flag to rebuild the process on the back end and get better results from the rest of the team. So that's the first thing we do, is we grade every single call, and that's how we use it. The second area that we're using AI inside of our business is for what we call avatar intelligence reporting. Okay, so you probably have your sales reps giving you feedback about the calls they're taking, right? Whether it's good feedback or applicable or useful, that's a different story. But the reality is when you're taking sales calls, you're getting thousands and thousands of data points on the leads that you're speaking to. Up until recently, you've just had no way to actually aggregate and analyze those data points in a way that was effective, right? So prior to AI, you would get feedback from a salesperson. Hey, these people aren't really qualified. These people have this kind of job. These people have this kind of pain. And then you would take that feedback from your sales team and you'd get it back to marketing, and then you reposition the marketing to address it. The issue is that salespeople are emotional, they have recency bias, and they don't necessarily take in all of the data in the control. They just take in what they feel like is the most impactful, right? And what you feel and what's the truth are two very different things. Now, every single sales call, it's already getting graded, right? It's already getting analyzed with AI, in our case through Gemini, and then through our backend and our BigQuery database. It's already all getting analyzed and compartmentalized that way. So now the next simple step is we can start collecting all of the data points per the leads as to what is the main pain points they're coming onto the call with. What is their income? What is the messaging that aligns with them most, right? What are the things that they're saying, the actual sentences that they're saying as to why they want to move forward or why they do not want to move forward, right? So we're preparing basically these avatar intelligence reports, and I'll show you one right here. We're preparing these for all of the businesses that we work for. We're doing it every quarter. It's a 60 to 80 page report of exactly what the leads are saying that are buying versus what the leads are saying that are not buying. Their job, their income, their pain points, the language they're using, why they want to do this, why they don't want to do this, why they haven't done it before, compiling all of those into a report. And then we're sending that back to marketing. And again, this is based off of like 1,000 calls, depending on how much volume you have. For us, it's based off of thousands of calls. So now we send back to marketing, and the marketing can take that messaging and put it on the front end. Okay, so now whatever's being used on the sales calls, it's the main reason as to why someone's buying. We could take their exact words and we could put it on the front end of the sales call, or sorry, the front end of the ads. So we're getting more and more of those people that are closing at a higher rate. One of them that stands out the most recently that we've done this for, we did it with 1,500 sales calls over the last quarter. The only difference that we did for this client from 1 month to the next was we implemented what the avatar reporting was telling us. Okay, so we did it for 1,500 calls. We got a 60-page report. We redid all of the ads to focus on the messaging and the avatar that was actually closing. Not what we thought, what was actually closing. Their cash collected per book call went up from $850 per book call to now this month we're on track for $1,250 cash collected per book call. That is a $400 increase in cash per booking that we're now getting from the lead, the same exact leads. So it's the same setters, the same closers, the same script. The only thing that we changed was we redid the ads and we redid the messaging to talk to the people that were already closing at the higher rate. So we're getting more and more and more of those people on the back end, which has just allowed us to increase our conversion rates across the board. Okay, so that's the second thing that we've been using AI for. And while this is not necessarily automating anything that we've already been doing, it's something that we weren't doing prior because we didn't have the resources for it, right? We couldn't analyze 1,000 calls and then get that to marketing. Now we can, and we can get it in a way, in a report that is very comprehensive and easy to implement, which is the key. The third area that we're using AI within our sales team is the CRM and pipeline hygiene, okay? So like I said, we have between 8,000 and 12,000 sales calls every single month that's happening. Every single sales call would have to get updated by the closer. The closer would have to drag to the outcome, right? No show, follow up, closed, lost, and then we have to leave notes in the CRM. What happened? Were they qualified? Were they not qualified? What was their pain point? We have to manually leave those notes. Now, again, because all of our sales calls are going into our database and all of them are being analyzed by Gemini, it becomes very simple to create an automation that updates the CRM for us. Okay. If you don't have a big tech background or you don't have anyone on your team that can build this, you can use AI agents like Victor or something like that, where it can just easily, you set up a workflow where it just triggers Victor to analyze the call and update it. But in our case, it's all built into the database. Now our CRM, after every single call, the AI ascribes an outcome and then it updates the CRM. So the closers no longer have to update the CRM. The lead will automatically go from booked to follow-up to no-show to show to reschedule, whatever it is, it'll automatically go into that pipeline stage. And then the notes automatically get updated from what the notes are from the call. So the key here is that our closers can just do more of what makes them money and what makes us money, which is talk to people. They get to pitch the offer more, they get to talk to more leads, they get to just make more offers per day. And in turn, we get to make more money per closer that we have on board. So being able to automate this mundane kind of task on the back end has been a huge help for us. The fourth area that we're using AI within our business is an actual AI agent. Okay, so we call them sales agents, just an AI agent that can actually automate work, right? So if you're only using AI that requires a person to prompt and a person to ask it to do something, then this is where, yes, you're increasing speed, but not necessarily productivity, right? Not necessarily creating roles within your company that are fully automated, okay? So obviously a lot of people are talking about AI agents these days, and it's like OpenClaw and all these tools are really, really readily available and being marketed heavily. They all work. It's just how well do they work is kind of the question. We use a tool called Victor. I'm not affiliated to them. I'm not making any money by promoting them by any stretch, but we use a tool called Victor because it requires no technical setup. You just basically take all of your existing SOPs as a company, if you have them, but you should. You take all of your SOPs, you upload it to Victor to build the skills that it needs, and then you start setting up these kind of cron jobs so that it can automate its work. So here are some of the use cases we have for our AI agent. One, we work in 40 different CRM, right? Because all of our businesses within our portfolio have their own CRM, we're operating out of so many CRMs that it's faster for us to use this tool to update things than it is for us to just log in and do it ourselves, right? So for example, we have a 3-day booking window on all of our calendars. On some of our accounts and some of our businesses, the sales team doesn't take calls on the weekends. So what we do is automatically on Thursdays, Victor will extend the calendar for 5 days instead of 3 days. So that's just a very simple one. Right. Another one is when the close rates are down from one closer to another, the AI agent will automatically adjust calendar priority. Okay. So if one person is falling below KPI, our AI agent will just automatically adjust the calendar priority to lower their priority. So they're getting less bookings and burning through less leads. And that helps them get back up to KPI because they have less leads funneling through their pipeline. Okay. Another one is it prompts us for calendar availability. So if one of my calendar is losing availability, I'll get a notification saying, hey, your calendar is filling up, either open up more time or add another person. And then I can just answer, well, me or my sales manager can just answer very quickly and open up more time or add somebody else to that calendar, right? So a lot of these little things that normally would require you to be watching your CRM like a hawk can now just be automated by having this tool analyze the CRM and work inside of the CRM to get this to you in an easier and faster way. And just to be clear, you don't need to hire like a really fancy kind of machine learning engineer or prompt engineer or any of these kind of like newer titles that have come out. We've done all of this with a team of 4 backend developers from a mix of like Lebanon and Egypt. And the reality is like they can build some really, really strong systems without having like these really fancy titles that you have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars a year for, or without going to like an agency where you have to pay thousands and thousands a month for them to do it for you. The 5th area that we're using AI for in the company is for outbound. Okay, so prior, we have all of our setters just basically doing outbound to random leads that they think might be a good fit, and they're reaching out to them and just funneling them through, trying to get them on a call to find out if they are a good fit. Whereas now we've got our ICP really well documented. We use a software called Apify where we give it our ICP and it helps us generate 500 to 1,000 leads per month that our outbound team can now hit via email, SMS, Instagram, whatever contact info we have for that lead, right? So before we were pulling these really broad lists and then hitting them, whereas now the lists are really, really dialed in. We get the exact ICP from these lists so that when we're doing our outbound, we know that we're not wasting time on leads that aren't a good fit. We're also using this for recruiting. Okay, so our recruitment department, we've recently had to hire a new finance controller. And while we put up an ad out there and we put an ad on LinkedIn and Indeed, we weren't really happy with the types of recruits we were getting or the types of applicants we were getting. So we use Apify. We're using this still, but we used it to pull a list of 1,000 people that fit the job description, that have the experience for the role. And it gave us a really targeted list that our recruitment team can now reach out to and offer an interview to. And then we actually ended up filling that position that way. So we've been able to automate a lot of these list building efforts, but not just automate it, but get way better results and way more dialed in leads as a result. So those are the 5 AI processes and systems that we're using inside of our business today to manage our portfolio of over 40 companies and manage our sales team that's generating millions and millions of dollars a month in sales. Now, if you're running a sales team right now and you want to scale to past $1 million per month, you can click the link below in the caption. You can apply to work with Net Revenue, my company. And on the application, you'll be prompted to book a call with a member from our team. Either it's going to be our Chief Growth Officer or our Director of Business Development. Okay, so these are not just entry-level salespeople. These are people that have equity in our company and that have vested interest in our success and your success. You'll be able to book a call with them. We go through an audit process with everybody that applies, meaning worst case, if we can't help you, you're still gonna get a 5 to 6 page report on exactly what you need to do to scale. And if we can help you, great. We'll talk about those next steps. We'll talk about how we can bring and implement a sales team within your business and how we can help you scale to $1 million plus a month. So that's all for this video. Appreciate you for watching. If you got any questions, drop it below in the comments. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.